Have you ever walked past a mirror, paused, and caught the faintest scent, just enough to make you stop and wonder, wait, is that me? It's a small, private question, one you'd probably never say out loud. But in that quiet moment, standing alone in your bathroom, between brushing your teeth and brushing your hair, it can whisper something you weren't ready to hear. And here's the truth, you're not alone. At Wise Elders Legacy, we believe aging is not a retreat, it's an awakening. But sometimes, our bodies begin to speak in ways we didn't expect. Not with words, but with signs. Subtle changes in scent, in skin, in energy. And yes, sometimes, that includes the quiet betrayal of odor. Now let me be clear. This video isn't about shaming, blaming, or making anyone feel self-conscious. It's about reclaiming something we all deserve, our sense of confidence, ease, and self-respect. Because being clean isn't always the same as feeling fresh, and sometimes, even our best hygiene habits are quietly working against us. Today, we're diving deep into 8 surprising bathroom habits that may be making you smell worse, not better. Yes, even when you think you're doing everything right. Some of these habits are so ordinary, so innocent, that you may not even think twice about them. But once you see them clearly, they change how you see your whole routine, and how you treat your body with the kindness and wisdom it deserves. Along the way, I'll be sharing simple and science-backed changes you can make to stay fresh, confident, and more connected to your body. At any age, we'll talk about towels, soaps, feet, even bathrobes, and why the little things you barely notice might actually be what's holding you back from that clean, vibrant feeling we all crave. And don't worry, this isn't about throwing out everything you own or overhauling your bathroom overnight. It's about noticing, adjusting, becoming just a little more in tune with the messages your body is sending, and learning how to respond with grace. So, before we begin, I'd love to ask a small favor from you. If you find value in these gentle reminders, if you enjoy learning how to care for yourself in deeper and more meaningful ways, please like this video, subscribe to Wise Elders Legacy, and turn on the bell so you never miss a new story, tip, or insight. And if you're still here with me right now, leaning in, curious, thoughtful, I want to invite you to leave a simple comment down below. Just type the number 1 so I know you're here, you're listening, and we're walking through this journey together. Because that's what this channel is about. Not just information, but companionship. Not just cleanliness, but dignity. Not just growing older, but growing wiser. Now, let's begin. Have you ever stepped out of the shower, wrapped in your softest towel, only to notice something didn't feel quite right? Not visible, not painful, but a subtle discomfort, a faint odor, a quiet question in the back of your mind. Why do I feel less fresh, not more? I used to think I knew everything about staying clean. In fact, I prided myself on it. My bathroom shelf was a small battleground of soaps, body washes, feminine sprays, and wipes, all in shades of pink, lavender, or pastel green, promising purity, freshness, and that elusive word, confidence. The more I lathered, the better I felt, or so I believed. I was especially thorough when it came to my intimate areas. Every morning, without fail, I used scented soaps, scrubbing with the enthusiasm of someone trying to erase not just dirt, but insecurity. Somewhere along the way, I had absorbed the belief that women are only clean if we smell clean. And clean, in the eyes of the beauty industry, usually smells like artificial flowers. No one ever told me I was doing too much. Not my mother, not my sisters, not even my doctor. And so I went on, washing, scrubbing, perfuming, until one day, I realized my efforts weren't helping. They were hurting. You see, your intimate area is one of the most finely tuned ecosystems on your body. It's not a place that needs deep cleaning. It needs balance. Inside that delicate space is a network of beneficial bacteria and a natural acidity, your pH, designed to protect you. It's typically between 3.8 and 4.5, a range that keeps harmful bacteria in check and maintains health without you having to think about it. It's a self-cleaning system, smart, subtle, remarkably effective. But when we introduce harsh soaps, heavy fragrances, or chemical-laden wipes, we upset that balance. We strip away the good bacteria, raise the pH, and open the door to irritation, odor, and even infections like bacterial vaginosis or yeast. Ironically, in trying to be cleaner, we become more vulnerable. I learned this the hard way. I spent years chasing that perfect, just showered feeling, only to deal with discomfort, dryness, and recurring problems I couldn't explain. I thought I was doing everything right, but I was actually scrubbing away my body's natural defenses. It wasn't until a kind, straightforward gynecologist finally looked at me and said, "Your body is doing its job. You just need to stop getting in the way," that I began to see things differently. She explained that the vagina is self-cleaning. It doesn't need soap. It doesn't need perfume. It doesn't need help. It just needs you to let it function the way it was designed. That internal cleansing system, which includes mucus that clears out dead cells and bacteria, is incredibly efficient. What we do need to cleanse is the external area, the vulva, and even then, gently, not with scrubbing, not with foam, but with warm water and, if necessary, a mild fragrance-free cleanser specifically made for intimate skin. I made changes. I stopped using anything that promised to smell like roses or peaches. I tossed out the wipes and sprays I had carried in my purse for years. I learned to let my body be. And the results? Nothing dramatic, at first. But over time, I noticed something profound. I felt better, lighter, more comfortable in my skin. My body was no longer reacting to my attempts to control it. It was finally at peace. We live in a culture that often teaches women, especially as we age, to second-guess our bodies, to fight nature, to believe that we need constant correction, constant covering up. But here at Wise Elders Legacy, we believe aging is not decay. It's wisdom unfolding. Your body is not something to fix. It's something to listen to. So if you've been dealing with odor, discomfort, or just a sense that something's off, don't double down on soap. Pause, reflect, and consider stepping back. Start with warm water. Choose gentle, pH-balanced products for the vulva if needed. Avoid douches, sprays, or wipes that promise freshness, because true freshness doesn't come from chemicals. It comes from respecting your biology. And, if the problem persists, don't hesitate to talk to your healthcare provider. Sometimes the best act of self-care is asking questions and seeking answers from someone who listens. You don't have to scrub yourself into being acceptable. You already are. Let your body breathe. Let it balance itself. And most of all, trust that your body, like your wisdom, knows exactly what it's doing. Now, let's continue this journey together. In the next part of the video, we're going to take a closer look at a seemingly harmless household item that might be sabotaging your hygiene more than you realize. Your bath towel. Yes, the very thing you use to dry off might be working against you. But before we move on, if this story, this message, has resonated with you, I'd love to know. Drop a simple 1 in the comments. It's our quiet signal here at Wise Elders Legacy that says, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm learning, and I'm honoring the quiet intelligence of my body. Let's move forward, together. Let me ask you something gentle, but honest. When was the last time you washed your bath towel? Not the fancy one you hang up when guests come over. Not the decorative one folded perfectly on the rack. I mean your towel. The one you use every morning. The one that greets your clean skin after every shower. I used to think, like many people, that a towel stayed clean because I was clean when I used it. I mean, if you're stepping out of the shower freshly washed, what could possibly be dirty about the towel that dries you? It's a comforting assumption, but also a misleading one. There was a time, not long ago, when I noticed something strange. Even after a good thorough shower, soap, rinse, moisturizer, the freshness didn't last. There was a faint, musty smell I couldn't quite name. I changed soaps. I cleaned the drains. I even switched deodorants. But the odor? It lingered. Quiet, but present. And then, one day, I buried my face in my towel like I always did, and the answer hit me. It wasn't the air. It wasn't the drain. It was my towel. You see, towels are quiet collectors. They hold on to more than water. They absorb the oils from our skin, They cling to the microscopic bacteria we shed without even knowing it. And worst of all, they love moisture. And moisture, well, it loves bacteria. Every time you hang your towel up in a humid bathroom with poor airflow, you're creating the perfect playground for mold, mildew, and odor-causing germs. And these invisible invaders don't just stay on the towel, they transfer right back onto your freshly cleaned skin. I used to reuse a towel for a full week, sometimes longer. It felt efficient. It felt environmentally friendly. But in trying to save water, I was quietly sabotaging my skin. And perhaps you are too. Dermatologists recommend washing your towel after every 3-4 uses. But that number gets smaller if you live somewhere humid, or if your bathroom doesn't have good ventilation. In some cases, like a windowless bathroom, or if you sweat easily, you may need to wash it after every 2 uses. At first, this might sound excessive. I thought so too. But then I remembered something simple. What we put on our skin matters, and what touches our skin every day matters even more. So I changed my routine. I created a small rotation, 3 towels, always in cycle, 1 in use, 1 drying, 1 fresh and ready. I hung them wide and flat on a rack so they could breathe. And when I washed them, I let them dry fully under sunlight or in open air. The result? My skin felt cleaner, my bathroom smelled fresher, and that quiet sense of being just a little off faded away. A small change, but it brought big peace. You see, at Wise Elders Legacy, we believe wisdom often comes not from grand gestures, but from noticing the small things, the daily things, the things we overlook because they've always just been there, like a towel that starts to whisper instead of serve. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't stay fresh the way it used to, consider this. Maybe it's not your body that's changed. Maybe it's your towel. And if you're still here, still listening, still reflecting with me, drop a 2 in the comments below. It tells me we're still walking side by side on this quiet journey of rediscovery. Because sometimes the softest habits have the loudest consequences. In the next part of this journey, we're going to talk about a body part most of us ignore entirely, until it starts to speak up. Yes, your feet. Those 2 humble workers at the bottom of your body have more to say than you think, but we'll get to that soon. For now, look at your towel. Feel it. Smell it. Ask yourself, does this still serve me? And if not, maybe it's time for a fresh one. Let's take a moment to talk about something most people avoid, something that rarely makes it into polite conversation or self-care rituals. Your feet. Now, before you laugh or squirm, stay with me, because what I'm about to share might quietly change the way you treat the very foundation of your body. Feet carry us through decades. They've supported you through job interviews, weddings, hospital visits, and grocery store lines. They've stood through life's ceremonies, paced in times of worry, danced in moments of joy, and walked silently when words weren't enough. And yet, most of us treat our feet like an afterthought. When I was younger, I didn't think much about them. In the shower, I'd let the water run over them. Maybe swipe a washcloth by once or twice if I remembered. But scrubbing? Drying between the toes? Paying attention? Not really, because they were hidden. In socks, in shoes, in silence. As long as they didn't hurt, I assumed they were fine. But over time, something shifted. I began noticing a strange smell coming from my shoes. Not the scent of sweat from a long hike. No, this was different. Sour. Lingering. And somehow, embarrassing. I hadn't been overly active. I hadn't changed anything in my routine. So what was happening? The answer, it turns out, had everything to do with age and neglect. You see, as we grow older, our skin doesn't shed dead cells as efficiently as it once did, especially in places like the soles of our feet or the often overlooked spaces between our toes. This dead skin becomes food for bacteria. Combine that with sweat. Feet have over 250,000 sweat glands, by the way, and you've got a perfect little storm. Moisture, dead cells, warmth. It's like a 5-star hotel for odor-causing microbes. All those years of letting the water run over them wasn't enough. I was cleaning the rest of me, but leaving my feet behind. So I changed. Now, during every shower, I take 1 full minute for my feet. Not rushed, not mindless. A deliberate act of care. I use a soft washcloth and a mild, fragrance-free soap. Not to scrub harshly, but to gently clean the soles, the heels, and especially in between the toes. That space? It's where moisture loves to hide. Where odor begins. And when I dry off, I no longer just pat them and move on. I give them the attention they deserve, especially between the toes, making sure no moisture lingers to feed bacteria later. Once a week, I exfoliate, carefully. A pumice stone or foot file removes buildup, but I never overdo it. Our skin, even down there, deserves gentleness, and perhaps the biggest game changer? In warmer months, or whenever I wear closed-toe shoes, I sprinkle a little antifungal foot powder into my socks. It's not about fear, it's about balance, prevention, respect. The result? The odor disappeared. My feet feel fresher, and oddly enough, I feel more grounded, literally. There's something incredibly human about tending to the parts of ourselves we once ignored. It's not vanity, it's reverence, because when we care for our feet, we're not just preventing odor, we're honoring the workhorses that carry us, day after day, without asking much in return. And for those living with diabetes or circulatory issues, this step is even more important. Neglect can lead to serious complications. Cracked heels, infections, even loss of feeling. But even if your feet are healthy, they still deserve your presence. So the next time you shower, ask yourself, did I remember my feet? Not just in the way you check off a to-do list, but as an act of attention, of wholeness. You are not just your face, your hair, your hands. You are a full body, and your feet are the quiet heroes of that body. At Wise Elders Legacy, we believe that wisdom isn't just about what you know, it's about how you care, and sometimes the greatest form of wisdom is tending to the forgotten places. If you're still watching, still feeling this journey unfold, leave a 3 in the comments. Let me know that you too are beginning to listen to the language of your body from head to toe. Next, we're stepping into something a little unexpected, a habit so common, so seemingly harmless, that you might laugh when you hear it. But trust me, it's more serious than it sounds. Because in the next part of this story, we're talking about flushing the toilet with the lid open. Stay with me. Now, this next habit might sound a little silly at first. In fact, when I first heard about it, I chuckled. I thought it was one of those exaggerated internet myths you hear and brush off. But the more I learned, the more I realized. This tiny act, something we do several times a day without a second thought, can quietly affect not only the cleanliness of our bathroom, but the freshness of our body. Let me ask you something. Do you flush the toilet with the lid up or down? It's a small question. One of those habits we pick up early in life and never really question. But behind that simple flush is something scientists have a name for. Something most of us have never heard of: the toilet plume. I know it sounds like something dramatic, but it's not fiction. It's physics. When you flush with the lid open, you're essentially launching a cloud of microscopic droplets into the air, some of which can travel up to 6 feet. These droplets don't just contain water. They carry everything the toilet bowl held before the flush: bacteria, viruses, and chemical residues from cleaners. And here's the part that truly caught my attention. These particles don't just vanish. They linger in the air for minutes, sometimes longer. And then, they settle. On your towels, your toothbrush, your makeup brush, your lotion bottle, even on your skin if you're nearby. So think about it. You step out of a warm shower, feeling clean, rejuvenated. You dry off with a towel that's been hanging next to the toilet. Maybe you brush your teeth with a brush that's been resting, exposed, on the counter. You didn't do anything wrong, but you've been sharing space with invisible guests you didn't invite. And those subtle odors you've been trying to get rid of? That faint smell that clings no matter how often you clean? It might not be your soap. It might be the plume. When I learned this, I didn't panic. I didn't throw out everything in my bathroom. I simply began closing the lid. It's such a small action. Takes less than a second. But it creates a barrier, a protective shield that keeps what's meant to stay in the bowl. In the bowl. And over time, I noticed a difference. My bathroom smelled cleaner, fresher, longer. My towels, they stayed fresher too. And I stopped wondering why my freshly washed skin sometimes didn't feel so fresh. There's something deeply philosophical about this too. So many of life's problems don't need grand solutions. They just need us to pause and cover what we were about to leave exposed. At Wise Elders Legacy, we often say, it's not just about hygiene, it's about harmony. Respect for the spaces we live in, the bodies we inhabit, the air we breathe. So here's my gentle invitation to you. Start closing the lid before you flush. Every time. Not just for cleanliness, but for dignity. Not just for hygiene, but for health. And if you've already been doing this, thank you. You're one step ahead in protecting something far bigger than you might realize. If you're still with me, still learning, still nodding along, leave a 4 in the comments. Let me know you're here, that you're someone who notices the small things and sees the wisdom in even the most unexpected places. In the next part of our journey, we'll talk about something deeply personal, intimate even, a nighttime habit that many of us, myself included, never thought twice about. Until we realized it was quietly working against us. Yes, we're talking about wearing the same underwear to bed. I'll meet you there. Let me paint a familiar picture. It's late. The lights are dim. The house is quiet. You've made it through another day. Maybe you've brushed your teeth. Maybe you've washed your face. You change into your favorite soft pajamas, the ones that make you feel like you're being hugged by memory. And then, a quiet question floats through your mind. Do I really need to change my underwear? After all, you didn't break a sweat today. You weren't at the gym. You barely left the house. It's tempting, isn't it? To just crawl into bed, wearing what you've had on all day. Especially if it still feels comfortable. For years, I did just that. And to be honest, I never thought twice about it. But over time, I began to notice something. Despite my evening showers and clean sheets, I wasn't waking up feeling quite as fresh. There was a slight irritation some mornings, a sense of stuffiness or discomfort that didn't make sense. It turns out, the culprit was closer than I imagined. You see, our bodies never stop working, day or night. Even when we're resting, they're breathing, sweating, releasing oils, and shedding tiny skin cells. And our underwear, especially if worn for long hours, quietly collects all of it. Sweat, bacteria, moisture. Not always enough to see or smell right away, but enough to create an environment that invites irritation, odor, and imbalance. This is especially true as we get older. Our skin becomes more sensitive. Our bodies, more prone to changes in moisture and pH. And yet, many of us never update this one small habit. Here's where it gets even more interesting. The type of underwear matters too. Synthetic fabrics like polyester, nylon, or spandex may feel soft or stretchy, but they trap moisture and reduce airflow. They create a warm, enclosed space, perfect for bacteria to thrive overnight. And yes, over time, that can lead to more odor, more discomfort, and even health issues like yeast or bacterial infections. So what's the solution? Simple. Give your body a clean start before you sleep. Changing into a fresh pair of underwear at night, ideally made of breathable fabrics like cotton, allows your skin to relax. It gives your most sensitive areas a chance to air out, to recover, to just be. And for those who are comfortable with it, consider this. Sleeping without underwear at all. Yes, really. Going commando at night isn't just about freedom. It's about health. Without layers pressing in, your skin breathes. It stays drier. And that alone can reduce odor, irritation, and discomfort by morning. At first, it felt strange to me. A small change, but one that made me more aware of how disconnected I had been from my body. I realized how often I made choices based on habit, not presence, and something as small as fresh underwear, or none at all, became a symbol of intentional care. These days, slipping into bed feels different. My skin feels cleaner, my mornings lighter, and the act of changing into something fresh before rest, it feels like a quiet promise. You deserve to feel good in your skin, even when no one else is looking. At Wise Elders Legacy, we believe that how you end your day shapes how you begin the next. And that dignity lives not just in the public moments, but in the private ones too. In what you choose to wear, in what you choose to remove, and in the way you say to your body, you matter, even now, especially now. If you're still watching, still following along, leave a 5 in the comments, not just to mark the moment, but to honor your own quiet awakening, to say, I'm choosing to be intentional. I'm choosing to care. Up next, we're opening a lid, literally and metaphorically, on something most of us forget even exists. The small trash bin in your bathroom. Trust me, it has more impact on your hygiene than you think. Let's talk about that together. There's something oddly comforting about routines. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you shower, you tidy up the bathroom. Maybe you even light a candle or spritz a bit of air freshener to start the day feeling clean. But sometimes, even in the most pristine, beautifully arranged bathrooms, a quiet odor lingers, subtle, faint, almost ignorable. Until one day, you realize it's always there. Even after you've cleaned the sink. Even after you've scrubbed the floor. Even after the candle has burned low. That's exactly what happened to me. For weeks, I kept noticing a mild, sour scent in my bathroom. I deep cleaned the grout. I replaced the bath mat. I even checked the drains. But it wasn't until I leaned over to toss something into the trash bin that it hit me. Literally, it was the bin. Yes, that small, humble container quietly tucked near the toilet or under the sink. The one we use without thinking. Just a few. Tissues here, a cotton swab there, maybe a hygiene product wrapped in toilet paper. It never looks messy. It never seems full. And yet, it holds more than we think. You see, even the smallest bathroom trash bin is a collector of moisture, of organic matter, of things we don't want to think about. And when those things sit, day after day, often sealed under a lid, they begin to ferment. Softly, invisibly, until your bathroom doesn't smell dirty exactly, but never quite clean. I used to wait until the bin was visibly full before emptying it. It felt efficient, sensible. But what I didn't realize is that in the name of convenience, I was letting tiny bacteria colonies build a quiet little home in the corner of my bathroom. They didn't need much. A damp tissue, a used pad, a cotton, round with a drop of makeup remover. Together, those bits created a warm, enclosed environment. Just moist enough, just dark enough to grow into something noticeable. It's a strange kind of betrayal, isn't it? We think we've done everything right. But it turns out, the one thing we rarely think about might be the very thing throwing off the sense of hygiene we work so hard to maintain. So here's what I changed. Now, I empty my bathroom bin every few days, regardless of how full it looks. It doesn't need to overflow to be done. It just needs a reset. Once a week, I give it a quick clean. A simple wipe with a disinfectant or a vinegar-based spray does wonders. No scrubbing, no drama, just intention. And for an extra layer of freshness, I sprinkle a bit of baking soda or add a few drops of lavender essential oil at the bottom of the bin. It absorbs moisture, it neutralizes odor, and it makes me smile every time I lift the lid, not because of the scent, but because of the care. You see, at Wise Elders Legacy, we talk often about the unseen, the quiet details, the things that whisper when the rest of the world is loud, and this little bin is one of those whispers. A gentle reminder that small neglect creates quiet consequences. And small attention? It restores more than just cleanliness. It restores harmony. Since I began caring for that little bin, something shifted. My bathroom feels lighter. My mornings feel clearer. Even guests have noticed, not with words, but with relaxed shoulders and a slower breath when they enter the room. It's a detail, a ritual. But sometimes, rituals are what root us back to presence. So, if you're still here, still on this journey of rediscovery and refinement, I invite you to leave a 6 in the comments. Not because you've mastered anything, but because you're noticing. And noticing is the beginning of wisdom. Next, we're going to talk about something even softer, something that wraps us in comfort, but might be quietly clinging to more than just warmth. Yes, we're talking about your bathrobe. Let's take a look at what it holds. There's something undeniably comforting about a bathrobe. You know the one I'm talking about. Not the brand new hotel robe with a logo stitched on the chest. Not the Instagram perfect kind you hang for guests. I mean your robe, the one that knows the shape of your shoulders. The one you reach for when you step out of a warm shower, water still glistening on your skin. The one that holds the memories of early mornings, long evenings, and quiet cups of tea. It's soft, familiar. A kind of wearable comfort that feels like being wrapped in your own story. But here's a question most of us never think to ask. When was the last time you washed it? I'll be honest, there was a time when I didn't know the answer. It hung faithfully on its hook, always within reach. And because I only wore it after getting clean, I assumed it stayed clean too. But that was a quiet mistake. Because while your skin may be freshly showered, it's still damp. And when that moisture transfers to your robe, especially in a bathroom without good ventilation, it doesn't simply disappear. It soaks in. It sits. It waits. And over time, it begins to breed warmth, dampness, a little body oil here, a trace of sweat there. Together, they create the perfect environment for something you can't see: bacteria, mildew, and yes, odor. It starts slow. A faint musty smell you chalk up to humidity. A morning where you feel not quite fresh, even after a perfect shower. You blame your soap, maybe your towel. Rarely do we look at the robe. But here's the thing. That robe touches you when your pores are open. When your skin is at its most vulnerable. If it's harboring bacteria, or even just a lingering scent, it transfers onto your body, into your senses, undermining the very feeling of cleanliness you worked so hard to create. When I realized this, I felt a bit embarrassed, but mostly, I felt grateful. Grateful that I noticed. Grateful I could change. Now, I wash my robe once a week. No exceptions. And to make that easier, I invested in a second one. That way, one is always clean and ready, while the other rests, breathes, and dries in full. I also stopped hanging it on the back of the bathroom door where steam gathers and airflow dies. Instead, I give it space, on a wide hook in a breezy hallway or near a window. And when I wear it, I notice how it feels. Not just the warmth it gives, but the care it reflects. And here's something you may not expect. That small change transformed my mornings. There's a kind of luxury, real, grounded, humble luxury, in wrapping yourself in something fresh, something that smells like sunlight and laundry and presence. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about respecting yourself. At Wise Elders Legacy, we often remind each other that aging is not about giving up comfort. It's about refining it, letting go of the things that no longer serve, and making room for what truly nourishes, even in the smallest details. So, if your robe has been hanging in the same spot for months, quietly collecting moisture and time, maybe it's time to give it a break. Wash it. Let it rest. Let it breathe. Or retire it entirely, and treat yourself to something that says, I deserve freshness. I deserve softness that supports, not sabotages. If you're still with me, still on this gentle path of rediscovery, leave a 7 in the comments. It tells me you're not just watching, you're awakening. To your body, to your environment, to the everyday rituals that build a life of quiet dignity. Next, we'll explore one final habit that hides in the shadow of our routines. It's something we assume we've handled, especially after shaving. But there's one small detail, one forgotten step, that can make all the difference. Let's talk about cleaning under your arms. After shaving, we've talked about towels, about feet, about robes and trash bins and all the quiet culprits that affect how fresh we feel in our own skin. But this one caught even me off guard. Let's talk about your underarms. More specifically, what happens after you shave them. Now, for many of us, shaving is just another line in the hygiene routine. A few quick strokes in the shower, rinse, done. And in theory, it should help us feel cleaner, right? Less hair, less odor, less surface area for sweat to cling to. Makes sense. But as I've learned again and again on this journey, sense doesn't always mean truth. Here's what no one ever told me. Shaving isn't just hair removal. It's exfoliation, When you run that razor across your skin, you're not just cutting hairs. You're also scraping away the outermost layer of skin, dead cells, leftover deodorant, sweat, and yes, bacteria. That's not necessarily bad. No, fact. It's part of why shaving makes us feel smooth. But here's the catch. If you don't rinse and clean the area immediately afterward, all that loosened debris doesn't just vanish. It stays on your skin, in the open pores, mixed with moisture, warmth, and whatever product you apply next, often deodorant. And that's a recipe for irritation, for odor, sometimes even for clogged pores, itching, or rashes that seem to come out of nowhere. I used to wonder why, even after shaving, I sometimes felt less fresh, like my underarms turned sour faster than they should. I blamed the brand of deodorant, the weather, my hormones. What I didn't realize is that I was skipping one small but crucial step, the rinse. So here's what I do now. After shaving, I gently rinse my underarms with warm water, not just letting the shower hit them, but actually using my hand or a soft cloth to wipe away the loosened debris. No scrubbing, just care. Then I pat them dry with a clean towel. And here's the important part. I give them time. Before I apply anything else, deodorant, moisturizer, I let them breathe for a few minutes. While I brush my teeth, or do my skincare, or just sit by the window with a cup of tea. It's become a small ritual, a quiet moment between action and reaction, between removal and renewal. And I've noticed the difference. My skin stays calmer. The freshness lasts longer. And best of all, I no longer feel like I'm covering something up. I feel like I've truly cleaned. At Wise Elders Legacy, we talk a lot about presence, about listening to the subtle signals our bodies send. And this is one of those signals. Because self-care isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's about pausing, paying attention, and remembering that even the smallest acts, like rinsing your underarms, can be an act of love. So if you're still with me, still walking this gentle path of awareness and refinement, leave a 8 in the comments. Let me know that you've made it to the end of this shared journey through habits we rarely speak about, but live with every day. And as we close this video, I want to leave you with this. Freshness isn't about masking. It's about listening. It's about noticing what no longer serves you and gently letting it go. Whether it's an old towel, a forgotten bin, or a rushed moment of shaving, every small shift brings you closer to a life of dignity, comfort, and quiet confidence, because you deserve to feel clean, not just on the surface, but in your spirit. Until next time, thank you for being here. Thank you for noticing. And thank you for continuing this legacy of wisdom, one breath, one choice, one gentle habit at a time. This is Wise Elders Legacy, and this is your time to feel whole.